I am Dr. Eli Camp. Welcome. This is my podcast, Vital Wisdom. And this is where I talk about health, wellness, homesteading, raising children, and lots of other topics, all from the perspective of vitalism. I believe I've seen and taught others how the body can heal itself if it's given what it needs, it's not poisoned, and the innate healing ability of the body has been supported, not suppressed. It is my intention to bring what I have learned in my life, especially the last 24 years of being a physician, to help you be your own best doctor. Hope you enjoy the episodes, and thanks for being here. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Vital Wisdom. I'm Dr. Eli Camp. I have a very special guest today, Dr. Nina Manipon. She's over on the East Coast, and I'm so excited to chat with her today. We have been colleagues for a long time now. It's been really great. So, as you know, here on the Vital Wisdom podcast, we're talking about the body's ability to heal itself. If it has what it needs, if it's not being poisoned, if we're supporting the innate healing ability of the body. And every guest I have and every topic I do is all about that. It's all about the body's ability to heal itself and all of the things that we can do. There's some crazy stuff going on out there right now with measles. And I have to tell you, for thousands of years, humans lived with measles and they did just fine. And sometimes, it can become severe, but there's almost always underlying issues with that. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I want to say is don't ever take very high doses of vitamin A as a prophylactic, right? That can get toxic very quickly in the body. So I'm not sure when this episode's going to air, but measles are always there every year. So it is just something that you do. If you get the symptoms of measles, you do a very short time period of that high dose, and you can follow the World Health Organization's recommendations for that dosing. It's just a couple of days. And that's just because vitamin A gets depleted with this particular virus. So having said that, welcome, Dr. Nina Manipon, to the Vital Wisdom podcast. I'm so excited you're here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, where's your practice, all that great stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Eli Camp. Yes, it's been a long time since we've been working together. And yes, so my name is Dr. Nina Manipon. I'm a naturopathic physician here in Stamford, Connecticut, and I own and am the clinic director of Vitalism Wellness Center. And in the past, I used to be in a few mentors' offices. I had the great honor of working with Dr. Jim Sensenig, who has been one of my big mentors since I started medical school. And my focus in practice, which is really great, is really on terrain-based medicine. And what's great about that is I am a mom of two young children. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we homeschool. So on top of that, I do practice part-time. And I'm also on our Connecticut Naturopathic Physicians Board. I'm the treasurer, and I'm also on the events committee and public relations committee. So life is busy, right?
Wow.
Yes, life
That's
is
a
a
lot.
lot. And, just on top of being like a wife, mother, everything else. So it's, everyone always told me, Eli, that, you think you're busy in medical school, you wait until you get out. And boy, are they right.
They are right. So for folks who aren't familiar with terrain-based approach to health restoration, tell us some more about that.
Sure. So, I think the best way to explain it is it's naturopathic medicine. That's what it is.
Old
And
time, old time naturopath.
old time naturopathic
Yes.
medicine, right? Which is like so needed, especially now. And the focus, so how it came about was, as many of you know, there's the germ theory, which, Dr. Louis Pasteur came up with, and not came up with, found mold on an orange, right? And then there is the terrain-based theories, which was brought to the attention by, I believe his first is Antoine champ, if I'm saying that properly in French.
Wow.
And so the basis there is just, what I always explain to patients is germ theory is what fosters our current medical system now, right? Everything is, okay, you're sick, take a medication, take an antifungal, take a vaccine, do all these things because your body just is not healthy enough to take care of it on its own. And we are the exact opposite of that in so many ways, in that we're focusing on the terrain. And for a while, I have a lot of family members who are doctors. And so they didn't understand why I went to naturopathic medical school. It was like, what? Why are you going there? What's happening? And I'll answer that question about terrain-based medicine. But I lost my mom at 16 to colon cancer and my father 2 years later unexpectedly. And so right away, seeing my mom go through the radiation, the chemotherapy, the surgeries, the nonstop imaging between the ages of 13 and 16, I just knew there had to be a better way. And then losing her made me realize, especially in hospice care, that there has to be a dignified way for patients to continue to thrive, but also the family. So that was kind of always in the background. And then losing my father. So at a very young age, unfortunately, I have had the experience of loss. And seeing that and seeing what's happened with our dear best friend, even now, through all of this, it's only solidified to me that this is the only way to go. And that is what Dr. Sensnick said from the beginning. Listen, on the first day, he drew a board, well, online a continuum. This is health and this is disease. And every single day, your body is either going towards health or towards disease. And it's not just one thing. It's the thoughts that you think. It's the words that you speak. It's the environment you live in. It's your genetics. It's the food that you eat, the water you drink. So it's so much more than that. And I'm so, so grateful to be on this side. Health is on this side, this side of the continuum, right?
Mhm.
And to just have the mentors that I've had and NMI and you as well, because that's what it's about. It's the terrain. In the past, when I first started in practice, I was saying, oh, it's the gut, it's the gut, it's the gut. It is not just the gut, it's your terrain. It's what you're eating, which is why we do the food intolerance. Why focus on food intolerance to get rid of that toxemia? It is focusing on, stress. What's the stress like? What are your adrenals? How are they functioning? Can you sleep? How do you handle stress? Also, going back to digestion, are you pooping, right? Simple things
Right.
like that. Your organs of elimination, how's your liver, your gallbladder, your skin, and your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system. So it's like I always tell patients now that I've moved into this program since February, I've always wanted something that was much more like a clearer roadmap for patients. And that's exactly what I did. And ironically, my mom's name is Grace, so I named it after her. It's the Grace method and it follows it perfectly. Gut reset, adrenals, care for organs of detoxification, and then it's the endocrine system. So I'm just so grateful to be at this point in practice, almost, going on 11 years, and to have just the clarity that I have now.
Right. Well, it takes time. It's not just us, it's not you. It's every single doctor that gets out of medical school, even the most allopathic protocol. You still have to learn, right? What works best. And then go way far the other side. I remember when I started at naturopathic medical school, I was overwhelmed with all of these ideas of I hadn't really been eating healthy like I thought I was. And
Yes.
the environment was more toxic than I ever had any idea. And I started learning all of these things and I had 4 years to learn them a little bit at a time, right? 2 of those years were in clinic, so I was learning along with my patients as a student doctor. And we were making changes at home over a 4 year period. And then I got out and we kept making changes. And I think sometimes as doctors, we forget when someone comes to see us, they want results right away. Understandably so, they're suffering. But it takes time to fix the terrain. It takes time to figure out what are you going to eat? What should you be eating? What should you not be eating? Because it causes illness in your body. Like these things are hard for folks. And well, congratulations on structuring something that is going to be really, really good for your patients and probably a lot easier for you to manage, right?
It is. And you're absolutely right. Like I always remember, because like I can talk about a patient I just saw yesterday, it's like, why am I like, you came in not feeling well for a good 2 to 3 years. You're not going to get the results after one visit. That's certainly not going to happen.
No.
And it's explaining, like, if you've, I said to the patient, I said, you've been sick for 2 to 3 years. Give me half of that time. Okay.
Yeah.
At least give me half of that time, like realistic expectations. And Eli, like I've always heard too, it's like, and I know you see this because it's why our practices are busy, right? People are tired of the 5 minute appointments. They're tired of waiting, 2 hours to see their doctor. They're tired of not being listened to. I myself, like I love my primary care doctor, but I'm in and I'm out. I tell her the differentials, right? I say,
Right.
this is what's going on. What do you think is next, right? Because I know only 5 minutes. So where are we going to go?
Right.
And then I
Exactly.
think, and I explain that to patients, and they're like, well, you can do that, but I can't. And I said, I get it. And so that's why you're on polypharmacy. And even if I go into like an urgent care, which unfortunately this has been a very sickly year for us, because I want someone to listen to my own lungs. I don't want to listen to my own lungs. I want to listen and make sure. And they'll say, you're on any medication? And I'll say, no. And they'll ask again. I'm like, I'm, I'm so sorry. Like, was I not clear the first time? Like,
Right.
no
No.
medications. And you don't care about the supplements that I'm on. So I'm not going to even tell you about that, right?
Right. Right. Well, because for them, medicine is not everything it is for us. And just so y'all know, and some of you listeners might be just tuning in for the first time, when needed, if a naturopathic doctor is in a state that is a state that licenses naturopathic doctors, it is possible for them to have a pharmaceutical formulary if needed. I was in New Hampshire when I started, and we have a full formulary. So I could write for almost any kind of pharmaceutical. And let me tell you, in over 20 years, I've written two prescriptions. Two. One was for insulin and one was for thyroid. And it was for one was for type 1 diabetic, and one was for someone who'd had their thyroid removed. Everything else that has come my way, I have been able to use nature cure, naturopathic medicine, vitalistic naturopathic medicine to handle. Now, that doesn't mean people haven't come into me on pharmaceuticals, right? But usually they're coming in because they want to get off of they're not feeling as good as they think they could feel or as they used to feel when they were younger, and they want to get off the medications. And sometimes that's possible and sometimes it's not possible. So it's very dependent, right, on each person's individual case. So you have your practice kind of structured as a program, which folks who are listening know. Mine is set up as an annual. So people sign up with me once a year, and then I'm their doctor for the year. They pay one fee for my services. Their supplements or lab tests or things like that are an extra out of pocket expense, or some of them can run it through on their insurance. And we do our follow-ups. We spend our time together. They sometimes text me when they're at the grocery store and say, is this food okay? Or I want to buy new furniture. What's the least toxic furniture? Like, I'm their family doctor for the year, whether there's one person in the family or seven. And around where I live, many families have 10 to 15 people in their family, which is crazy. I could never have been a mom of 15, even though I thought I wanted to have 15 kids. So,
I wanted 5. So yeah, I get it.
right? So I think of that as an annual plan or an annual program. Tell us a little bit more about how your program is structured.
Sure. So, it was something that I worked with for some time. And what I decided on is I would love it if a patient would work with me for a year. However, that isn't always possible. And so what I've done is break up the GRACE method in pillars. And so patients are working with me for every 3 to 4 months. And so I just switched to this in mid-February. And so anyone that comes into my practice, what we need to do first. So what I have, I'm literally just switching over my website to this new site. So there is a webinar on my website. Patients are required to watch that first. And it explains how I work, terrain-based medicine, all of that. Just kind of like the old thinking, or what I consider the old thinking of medicine. And then from there, they're invited to book a call where we'll talk. And then from there, if it's a great fit, we book a time. So we'll work together every 3 to 4 months, every 2 weeks, and meet up. I do have a requirement because I'm a physician in Connecticut that they do come see me for the initial appointment in person. And I've always had that. I've even had patients in Nigeria, patients all over come from all over, and patients that even move. And I'm like, well, you got to come back. right? You got to come back at least that one time a year. So I typically, when I first started in practice, had patients in New Jersey, New York, and New Jersey and New York, because I started off in New Jersey during my residency, and then I opened up in Connecticut. So the goal there is when I started practicing, I would say, okay, just come see me once a month. That was too long. And then I thought maybe I could change it to 3 weeks, still too long.
Yeah,
I find that the 2 week mark is perfect because it gives them just enough time to either do something or not. And
right.
also to keep me posted on what's happening because I don't give patients my personal cell phone.
Mhm.
They cannot contact me that way because I have a family, right?
Right.
I have a
Yeah,
husband that's
sure.
really busy. But maybe one day I will be able to offer that type of care, but they can email me twice in between their visits, and they can always call the office
Right.
to speak with my VA,
So
right?
they
But
can get
that's
in touch with you.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
They can
yeah,
get in touch
yeah.
with me, but the goal really is I want, and that's a different paradigm, right? Like patients, and I explain to every patient, I am not your primary care doctor. Not even in Connecticut can I be your primary care doctor because we're not licensed as primary care physicians. We're specialists. And so you can't call me for urgent care. I can't prescribe medications. And that's actually a blessing. In the beginning, I used to think it was a detriment, but it is absolutely a blessing because I can treat acute care like this. I'm very grateful for with homeopathy. But what I can't do is write prescriptions. But what I can do, which happens a lot, is patients go see their pediatrician or primary care or urgent care, and they say, "This is what I was given." And I say, "Send me the chart notes so I exactly see what's happening if they don't come in office." And I'll say, "What would you like to do?" And they
Right.
say, "I don't want to take the antibiotic." And I say, "Okay, let's do what we can. And if you don't see a shift in the next 24 to 48 hours, you need to let me know right away.
Right.
24 hours first. And then if they continue to see that improvement, great. And if they're
Right.
not, then we change the plan."
Yeah, I want to make a comment about that because it's a very important idea I think that people must understand. And this is a quick story. So I was teaching at one of the medical schools a number of years ago. It was in the early 2000s, like, well, 2010-ish. And I was actually teaching a business seminar, right? And I was talking about the
It,
importance of customer service. Do you remember this story? And I made the comment that I had a person, here's good doctor customer service, because everyone kind of laughed at me when I said customer service, but it's good patient care, but it's also customer service, right? So she had strep throat, and we diagnosed it with a rapid strep test. And so I said to them, so I had her do topical iodine in oil. I had her swish with salt water and colloidal silver. I gave her some lymphatics. I gave her a homeopathic remedy. I had her do some hydrotherapy. And here's the customer service part I'm talking to the students is I called her that night before she went to bed and the next day to check on her. Well, I knew right away I had lost the attention of the classroom of students and they were whispering and talking. And I'm like, okay, let's pause this. What's going on? Because this is customer service. This is not a complex idea here. Did I lose y'all? And this one guy raises his hand. He says, well, Dr. Camp, you didn't give that patient antibiotics for her strep? And I was like, no, why would I'm a naturopathic doctor? Why would I do that? Everybody in here has strep in their throat right now. I guarantee you, if we could swab a big enough area in everybody's throat and nose, everybody in here, we would find strep. We would be able to culture it. And he was like, well, it's standard of care to give antibiotics for strep throat because you can get nephritis and you can get all this, cardiac issues. And I said, whoa. He goes, with untreated strep. And so I was like, okay, wait, stop right there. I'm not treating. I'm treating. I'm just not treating with antibiotics. So when you say you ask your patients, what do you want to do? And they say, I don't want to take antibiotics. What I want to make really sure that everybody understands is just because we don't use antibiotics for the person who doesn't want to use antibiotics, it does not mean we are not treating. You have to treat strep.
You have to treat in general, right?
You
It's
have
just
to
it's
treat.
not a pill. We're doing everything else, and that's the thing too, right? Eli, is that patients come to us because they want something different.
Yes.
And it's like if they wanted to take the antibiotic, they could. And if you want to, go ahead. No shame in that. Go ahead. I always say, if you want to take it, take it. We'll just take care of your gut later, right? It's your choice, always your choice. There's no shame in that.
Right.
And I also say to them, like, and if you don't want to take it, I'm happy to help support you here, as long as I continue to see changes. But you're not getting treated, right?
Right.
We're treating
Right.
this, and we're heavy with it.
And this is true not only for strep or for anything. This is true for anything that happens to a human except for emergency situations where if you don't get sewed up or a blood transfusion, like imminent death. When we
Yes,
have imminent death, we call that emergency care or an emergent situation. And mainstream medicine is very, very, very good at that. They're very good at keeping people from dying from acute, accidental things like that. And that's all I'll say about them because, I'm not into bashing other doctors.
no, not at all. And neither am I. I always say, it's if we could work together, fantastic.
If we could,
If we
and
could,
it is two paradigms of medicine.
is
And you have to be able to embrace both sides of medicine to be able to work together. And I'm sure you have found a number of medical doctors and osteopathic doctors who have become aware that there's a whole other approach and they probably are collaborative with you.
absolutely.
That's not the majority, folks. I'll
It's
tell
not.
you.
And honestly, like I think about the stories like Dr. Zeff and Dr. Sensenig used to teach, and I'm just so grateful for that. It still happens, right?
Yes.
Like, I've been able to have patients who have like, really dysregulated blood sugars. And I'm like, has no one taught you to check your blood sugars? And they're like, no. Has no one told you low carb diet? No. I actually had a patient come back to me and tell me my endocrinologist said that if I eat low carb like that, it's not going to be possible. It's just not possible. And I was like, I'm so sorry. What? And then we checked her blood work, and her A1Cs came down for the first time. And our doctor said, "What did your naturopathic doctor tell you to do? Just keep doing what she said." So I'm constantly are you just not aware? Like, and not oddly enough, but like, unfortunately, Dr. Bernstein just passed away this week, and he was one of the people from Dr. Morstein who taught about the low carb diet. He's
Yeah.
one of the oldest type 1 diabetics, Eli, and passed away at 90. And I
Oh, yeah.
didn't realize after listening in on his funeral, I didn't realize he went to medical school at 48.
Yeah.
And so he was a pioneer in that. And I remember shadowing him, and he's like, "Let's check your A1C." And I was like, "Okay." And he actually had an A1C machine in his office. He's
Yeah.
like, "Just give it a few minutes." So it's things like that. Like, I'm even treating a current pregnant patient right now. And before she came to see me, she had, I was like, "This looks like metabolic syndrome. This looks like, you have Hashimoto's, PCOS most likely." And then at her follow-up, she was like, "Guess what?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I'm pregnant." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that's so exciting." Oh my gosh, you have so much to work on, right?
Because the body is self-healing.
Yes, yes. And so what was so interesting is I said to her, I said, I am in pregnancy. I am very, very conservative. I don't mess around with that. And so you need to go make an appointment with an endocrinologist and see what they will do, because we do want to make sure you're being monitored. And so the doctor told her, we'll put you on medication, but and I said to her, I said, what do you want to do? She was like, "I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it because she said that it will make me feel like I'm on speed." She's like, "I already have that. I don't want to do that." And I said to her, "That's fine. Then I will do what I do with thyroid patients, which is give them thyroidinium, thytrophin to protect their thyroid, castor oil, clean diet, gluten-free diet, all those things." And I said, "I need you to recheck your blood work, and I got a good 2 to 3 months, and you need to tell your doctor you're not taking it." And
Right.
she did. Numbers are beautiful. And so her doctor literally said, "Keep doing what you're doing. I understand you didn't want to be on it. We just want to make sure you have a healthy pregnancy." So
Right.
this is all possible. This is all what's here. And I hear so many times from colleagues that move here, like, "How do you practice? You can't prescribe. You can't do IVs." I was like, I don't know any other way to practice. So
Oh,
how have you been practicing? I'm
I
very
do too. I get students that come to me from the States where it's a very broad scope of license, meaning they can prescribe and do IV therapy and do like surgery in office, like beauty procedures and things
yeah.
like that. And they're so curious about how I'm able to function without doing any of that. And I tell them I'm practice vitalistic medicine. I'm practicing naturopathic medicine, and
Right.
it doesn't mean that what other doctors do is wrong. It doesn't mean there's not value. It's just not naturopathic medicine, nature cure, old naturopathic medicine.
Absolutely.
It's a new modernized, I don't know. What did Jim used to say? He used to have a term for it, and I can't remember what he called it. It wasn't green allopathy, it was something else. It's very hard to practice in both paradigms.
Yes.
We have to be knowledgeable, but it's for the naturopath, we have to understand both paradigms. Like we're taught both paradigms, and our patients often are coming from this side of protocol medicine. Pharmacy is the only way, surgery is the only way. They're coming from this world, and they're like, isn't there anything else?
Yes.
And yes, people, there is so much more.
So much more.
There's a lot more to the picture. You only know a small part of the picture when that's the only medicine you've known. And when I don't know, if you have lots of family that were doctors, you probably grew up like I did, where my dad was military. And so we anytime something happened, we went to the doctor. It was all immunizations, it was all antibiotics, it was all like mainstream medicine, right? Because
Well, that's all we knew.
that's all we knew. And I started with my first son, who's 40 this year, in that model of medicine, but I also had lots of thoughts about herbs and food, and I knew at some level that the healthier the body was, the less chance that we had to get sick. Like I knew that in some way, but it
Yeah.
wasn't until I went to school, and specifically till I started learning from Sensenig and Zeph and Dr. Tisha was Watrous at the time, but
Mhm.
that I finally started to wrap my head around that is the medicine, creating and maintaining a healthy body and a healthy terrain, and right, and that's microbiome, and that's the way you think,
Yeah.
just like you said at the beginning. That is what creates health and as our best chance for healing. And yeah, now
No,
if I
you
get in a car accident and I have severed artery, man, you better get me to the
can't
closest
get me to the
ER.
hospital. Yeah, the best ER. And I agree with you, Eli. Unfortunately, like when my mom was sick and even after knowing, colon cancer, right? And unfortunately, my mother was misdiagnosed when she was bleeding. And so
Oh,
that's a big part of it. And it's interesting because I just had this conversation with my aunt who is an retired oncologist, my uncle who's a retired radiologist, right? So I was just with them in Florida. And I had this conversation with her because my webinar is about talking about my mom's story. And I said to her, can you remind me? Because I was 13. I remember I was 13 when my parents sat me down and said, Mom's sick and she has colon cancer. And I said, could you just remind me of what was happening? Like, I remembered specifically being sat down and I said, how did this happen? Like, why wasn't this taken care of? And she said to me, yes, your mom told me, like originally she didn't want to tell me right out of fear or thought it was like hemorrhoids. And then she went to her doctor and he said, oh, don't worry about it. It's probably just hemorrhoids, but didn't even check her.
oh,
Okay. So then when it happened again, or, it was more, she told my aunt, and my aunt said, no, now we have to do what we need to do. And she told me, I actually called that doctor up and I said, my sister came to you and you did not do the proper workup. I will never have her go back to you, and nobody else should either, because
oh
now she
wow.
has cancer. And so I remembered that conversation and then just kind of like, and so thank God, with my aunt in oncology, my uncle in radiology, and then when my mom's cancer came back, so it was my uncle that found it because he was the chief of radiology, and he was like, yes, it's coming back. So it's things like that. There's human error, there's doctor error, but it's also during that time frame. Gosh, it was such a stressful time period, and I was having digestive issues, right? I'd be running to the bathroom, I'd be stressed out. I'm 13, 16, I lost my mom. And so I started having all these things. So it made me even more hyper alert, like, oh my gosh, I could have this. I could have this in my history. And so when I went to the doctor and said, hey, I'm having stomach issues or I'm having this, and they would say, I think it's just stress, or like just eat a bland diet. And I had a colonoscopy at a very young age. And they're like, you're fine. And I was like, no, no, no. There's gotta be like do more, do better. Like there's gotta be more. And then I just getting frustrated, I found out, like, I found an acupuncturist, and everyone's like, oh, and back then, right? Oh, you're going to see
Right.
an acupuncturist, right? And I was like, yeah, let's give it a try. And then she was the one who told me to see like a different practitioner who told me about naturopathic medicine because I was in the corporate world at the time. And I really wanted to go back to school for either my MBA or my master's in HR. And she was like, and I remember this because I was sitting on her table. She was like, what did you always want to do? I was like, I've always wanted to be a doctor. It's too late, right? I'm 26, I'm 26 years old. And she was like, have you ever heard about naturopathic medicine? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And I was like, what is that? I'm like, sounds amazing, right? But I don't know what that is. And so she was like, look it up. I think that's in your future. And I'm so grateful because I looked it up. Within looking it up, I'm like, this is what I want to do. There was a talk at Bastyr. I went to, Connecticut to go listen to it. And boom, I started taking all the classes I needed because I was undergrad, originally going to pre-med, but then I switched over after losing my dad to political science, thinking I was going to go law school. So it's like such a turn, right? Like my life has been everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then to find my path again and to find this, I'm just so grateful.
When did you meet Dr. Sensenig?
Sure. So Dr. Sensenig at SCNM, he always taught our first classes. I was the last of the class, the last of the legacy. So I met him on my very first day of class, which I think was like February 2nd. So he was the first one, and then Dr. Rich Kirschner was the second one. So we
Oh,
had them
wow.
for a full week.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing.
Yeah, he
Then I
also
stopped him after
taught,
that.
he taught my first class too at Southwest. That was in, when did I start med school? 2000. I started in 2000. He was the first person, and he completely and utterly changed my life and my trajectory and my understanding of what medicine is. And like I said, I have a gratefulness for people who save lives in the allopathic field, but I don't know that I would call what they do for chronic illness and that kind of care. I don't know that I would call it medicine. I don't.
I
The
just had this
protocol.
conversation. It's protocols. I had this conversation too, at our homeschool co-op. Everyone, I don't know if you have this, like sometimes like people ask like, oh, how old are your kids? Are they in school? And I would say, no, I homeschool. And then right away I get, no, I don't believe in that. I'm like, well, I appreciate that. However, I'm a physician and I understand child development. And I'll let you know that many of us in the homeschool community are well educated. So if that's your choice, that's your choice. But my kids are very social. So if you're worried about our social skills, we're good. Right.
I
And
used to get that too.
yeah, I'm like, but why would you tell me what you like? Do you tell me I don't like the school system? I don't say that right away, right? Like,
Right.
common sense, guys, right? Like, have some awareness, right? When you
Yes.
talk to people.
Yeah. No, I loved homeschooling. And now Brian is going to be 17 and he's doing concurrent study at the local university. He was accepted. Sophie just took her ACT. She's going to be 16. Homeschooling takes so much less time each day.
Yes,
And why on earth, this was my thinking, why on earth do I want to let complete strangers raise my children?
absolutely. And be gone from them. Like, I didn't have children to not be with them and then only put them down to bed. I said, my
Exactly.
husband, and I said that all the time. Like, my husband, I'm very grateful, right? Because we have some family, like close family friends at homeschool. And so we knew that once we had kids, like I would not work full time and I would work part time and I would be the one raising our kids because it's what I've always wanted to do.
Well,
And
yeah,
right. And so I have this conversation, and everyone always asks me in our co-op, because I'm in two co-ops. They're like, how do you do it all? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know any other way to do it all. Right. But
dude.
I'm at two co-ops, and one is parent-led. And I actually teach like a Moana Adventures class, a healthy cooking class. And it's amazing, like
Yeah,
what these kids are learning. Like I
yeah,
have two dads in the program. One is a physical education teacher, one's a chef. And these dads are teaching the boys like real men stuff, like how to change a tire, how to use a
yeah,
power tool, how to write a check, how to tie a tie. And I tell people this and they're like amazed. And I'm like,
right.
we want to raise, we're not raising like young kids to be, we're making them to be, adults, like productive adults who are going to become, add to the community, not take away from the resources. And I look at some children sometime and I'm like, this is, are we text messaging now? Are we not having clear communication?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it blows my mind, like what's out there. But I remember what you were saying going to Dr. Sensenig. I know what I was going to say. I remember, I think it was the first or second day of class, he said, do you ever wonder why we live in one of the wealthiest countries and we have the most medical schools, the most doctors, and that we have the sickest people? He's like, we have a sick care system, not a healthcare system. And that stuck with me because that's exactly what it is. And I'm not knocking it because, if if that is the way that you want to go and that's the route that you want to go, fantastic. However, we're seeing is an allopathic literally means like trading one disease for another. That's what it's called, allopathy, if you look it up, right? It's not treating anything, it's just managing the symptoms. But if you really want to get to healing, like true healing, vitalistic medicine, that's where naturopathy comes in. And I
Yeah.
tell patients that all the time, I can treat hypertension. And it's not me, right? It's not me. It's the body. It's the
Right.
universe. It's known that there's order in the universe. But it's like, if we are able to do these things, like I treat hypertension, hyperlipidemia, cardiac issues, all these things,
Cancer.
like naturally
All, yep.
all the time. And it's like, oh, you do? Is that possible? And I'm like, yes. And that's why I'm just, and so I was telling my husband, right, because he's on the medical side of medical business on the medical side. And he's like, why aren't you guys like all like gazillionaires for what you do? Seriously, gazillionaires. And I was like,
Right.
that's a great idea. We can no longer be the best kept secret. No more.
No
Like,
more. No more. We don't want to be the best kept
no, and
secret.
we don't.
No. Jim used to tell me all the time, I would do my follow-ups. I'd go home with this sense of pride and sense of accomplishment and so grateful that I had this knowledge that I could share with people, and I'd expect them to go talk to folks and there'd be a line at the door the next day when I would come in. And he's like, "Well, that just didn't happen. We're just a best kept secret." And I'm like, It's we make it sound very attractive and appealing, all natural, no meds, like take control of your life, but it's work.
It is.
It's work. You have to make a commitment. Like I tell folks this who don't vaccinate, I tell them if you're going to make the choice to not vaccinate, great. We didn't vaccinate, but when you make that choice, you're making another choice. And that is to commit to a particular kind of lifestyle where you build health and maintain health in your children and in your family.
Mhm.
Like those choices go hand in hand. It's not just that you're protecting your kids by not vaccinating them if you believe vaccines are harmful. I'm not telling anyone how to believe, but if you believe that, you're only getting half the story. It's not just not vaccinating, it is also creating health and maintaining health in your children and your family. And that's one of the most important things I think I learned from Dr. Sensenig was if you're going to make this choice, you have to understand everything. It's not just not taking the antibiotic, it's also restoring your microbiome. It's not just saying, I don't want surgery on my knees. It's understanding the body has proper form and that form has to be proper in order for your body to move and function the way it needs to. Um, wow, gosh, that this time has just
Has it
flown
really?
by.
Yeah, I mean it really is amazing. I always remember Dr. Sensenig saying things like, give the body what it needs, take out the junk, and get the heck out of the way. That's what he always said to me. He's like, Doc, do those things. And I still remember the first because when I worked with him, I was still like a baby doc right after residency. I did my residency at the University of Bridgeport. And when I came to work with him, and I remember my second week of working with him, someone came in with pneumonia. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hear it. Oh my goodness, right? And right away
Right.
in my head, I'm like, standard of care. And standard of care is this. And I remember him always telling the story, Dr. Workin, who's standard of care? Who was telling you to do that? And so ran to the front desk and I was like, could you just call his office really fast and ask him to come in? And so he did. He was like, yep, doc, it's pneumonia. And I was like, okay, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
Afterwards, if we're away from the patient, he was like, doc, give her a homeopathic remedy. That's why she came in here and check on her tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, she's not coming to us for the referral to for the antibiotic. She's coming because she wants to be treated naturopathically. And I was just like right there. And within 24 hours, patient was feeling better. And so that's the other piece, like, right, Eli, it's like we don't this is why I screen patients. This is not like I took your one supplement and I'm not better. These are people who are committed to this lifestyle. Like I have come to like cooking all of my food, cooking every single thing I can, even though it's busy. Like I want to have a garden eventually, right? But and you see that turn, you see that tide of what's happening now. People want the control back in their lives. People want to be told, take this V because you're going to save your life and everybody else's life. The jig is up,
Yo,
right? All of
Yeah.
this is up. And for everyone, and for because we had to stay silent for so long, listen, we are seeing day to day what's happening from unfortunately people who are forced to get certain things and where other people are now. And people are tired of people of the government telling them what to do. I'm not anti-government at all, but it's like who is, and I said this in the beginning, it is always parents' choice. If you want to do something, you do it. You have complete autonomy of your body. This is why I teach my child at a very young age. You have complete autonomy. If you want to do something, you do. If you don't do it, right? If you don't want
Yeah.
someone to tell you, you tell them that. And you gotta, I would be, I'm not gonna curse, I would be darned if someone were to tell me, especially in the state of Connecticut, you must do this in order for your child to go to school. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do, and my kid's going to be the healthiest one out of everyone. And when he's sick, when he gets sick, and he bounces back very quickly. But we will show you exactly the type of human and adult that I'm going to produce in society.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. See, I've always
right?
loved that spiciness of your nature. I am the same way. Our children, we had jobs as parents, and that was to raise productive, healthy, kind, loving
Yes,
community members who were self-sufficient, confident, and had a high level of integrity. Well, there's only one way we knew that we could do that, and that was by raising our children. And it's not like they're sequestered in home in a dungeon. They have these big communities, right? And like you said, educated people are teaching our children. These are people who have made the decision that we did for many of the same reasons. We have a physicist, and we have an actuary, a statistician, and we have several PhD people. Like, they are participating in helping us educate our children because they made the choice to educate their children. And what you have to do is build a social group,
yes, community, right? It
a
goes back to the
community.
community.
Yes. Well, turns out I don't want my kids in the typical public school
Oh, heck no.
societal community. That's scary.
Oh, extremely scary.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. What? And even, and I, because I'm a mama bear, right? Like I fight, and I'm on my kids, right? As I'm sure you are. Like, if I see something, I am not the type of parent that's like, no, you don't say this. No, no, we correct it. We take care of it in a loving way, right? Because my
Yes.
children are, I teach my kids integrity. We tell the truth. If someone hurts you, you don't hurt them back. You come see me, and I will talk to the parent, right? To
Yeah.
take care of that. All of us, parent differently. And I say to him all the time, I'm like, Noah, you know how you're raised. You know how you are. God is first always. And so even the thing, you have to come, I have to, if he was coming to Phoenix next week, he's a hoot. At breakfast this morning, he's like, Mom, can I tell you how the circulatory system works? Let me tell you. He's like, well, the kidneys have this, capillaries. And it's funny because my husband, he's brilliant, right? And I said to my husband, because he made him oatmeal this morning, and we have like this little like cubby, right? Like through the kitchen and the dining room. And I said, honey, do you think this is what most 5-year-olds are having, conversations with their parents? He was just like, he's just smart. He's just brilliant. And I was like, yes. And
And
like
they
to
can
have,
all be.
yes, and they can all be, right?
Yes.
And this could be everybody. And the levels that he's learning already, but it's like this is what's possible. And so when people meet him, they're like, this is like really, wow, he's so smart. He's so this, he's so that. He's cooking, he's cracking, all of these things. I'm like, don't, and I always tell him, like, I'm never gonna take the challenges away from you, Noah, right? Or already my
Never.
kids, because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
And so I want to raise resilient kids who know how it is to have to fight for things and who know right from wrong and who don't just get a trophy for everything.
Yeah.
It's not okay,
Yeah.
right?
No, I
But
hear
I'm
you.
so grateful to have that opportunity. So,
I hear you for sure. Well, you said something important, and I think it's not only for our children, but it's for our health. It's probably a good note to end on. Resilience.
yes.
So this isn't just with kids. This is also with our health. This is the way we live our lives. This is how we interact with our neighbors, with our larger community, and with the planet. And as someone of Cherokee descent, I have had it instilled into my brain that I am just a caretaker. I'm just a caretaker of my kids. I'm just a caretaker of the pasture that's behind my house, of the water supply, of the health of myself as a human, of the health of my children who will reproduce to continue the human species. Like, we must have a conscience, and we must be aware that it's not just about our big house and our car and jewelry and vacations to Disney World. And it's no, it is about preserving our planet. It's about creating a healthy, thriving, vibrant community and ecosystem. And part of that is raising children who are aware of that too, right? Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. What final words would you like to leave with our listeners who are probably hanging on every word that we're saying here?
I guess I would say, you can heal, right? Like you have the ability to heal. And I've had patients say this, like, can you help me? I can help anybody, right? I'm honored to guide anybody, but you have to do the hard work. And when you do the hard work and naturopathic medicine meets and you have the right guidance and the right accountability, game changer.
Game changer.
You really can change your life when you want to change your life, right? Eli, it's like there has to be a point where it's like, I'm going to stop doing the things that are hurting me and I'm going to start doing the things that are helping me and change that trajectory. Like I can't just like dabble in like, whatever I do on the weekends, but 5 days a week I'm good. No, this is about lifestyle now. Like this is not about like, well, 3 days out of the week I eat well and like 5 days I don't. It's not just that, but it's the habits, like the daily consistency that's going to get you to that health and to get
Yeah.
you to the life that you want to live. Because I think everyone here, like the longevity, life is so precious, life is so short. And how are you
And
going
it's
to live that life?
once.
Once, right? One
Once.
time. You get one shot,
Yeah, there's no
one
do-overs here.
opportunity.
I love that. I think that's very sage advice. And I'm so honored that you came and spent this time.
Thank
I
you so
hope my
much.
listeners loved you. Make sure and get us all the contact information for people who might be interested in working with you.
Absolutely.
And are you coming to Phoenix?
I am. I'm so
Oh, good. And
excited.
I'll see you in a
Next week.
couple weeks. Well, next week. I'll see you
I
next
know.
week.
I'll see you
All right.
next week. Thank you again
Take
for having
care.
me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me today. For those of you who have written in, emailed, and are interested in my books and other offerings, I wrote The Unvaccinated Child as a resource guide for parents and caregivers to navigate childhood illnesses in a natural and healthy way. And while the intended group was the unvaccinated, it turns out it's an important resource for the vaccinated kids as well, since vaccines do not necessarily prevent illness. Smoke Rings is another book I wrote, and that's to help smokers support their health, regardless if they plan to quit or not. So, for people who smoke, love a smoker, used to smoke, continue to smoke, this book helps you be your healthiest version. And when I say it is judgment free, it is absolutely judgment free. You're free to make the choices you make. I'd just like you to find better health while you make those choices. My most recent book, Homeopathy, A Foundational Approach, is really great for someone, whether they're a complete beginner or they've already been practicing homeopathy. It starts at the beginning and it guides the readers through the basics and on into first aid and acute practice so you can start using homeopathy right away. That's the most important thing to me, is to get folks using homeopathy in their everyday life. My workshops and courses can be found at either ecampnd.com or longshadowsranch.net. Have a great week. Again, thanks for joining me and thanks for your support.